Hello. This is my Mount Rushmore project by me, AJ Lane. I used the colors purple and blue for my background because purple represents nobility, ambition, exclusivity, and prestige, while blue represents loyalty, trustworthiness, and dignity. And given the fact that the people I'm doing are all some form of royal, I thought that these colors would be, that these colors represented them the best. So, the people in my Mount Rushmore project are Cleopatra, Queen Boudica, sometimes spelled, instead of Bodica, it's spelled Boudicca or Boadicea. Nefertiti, and Laconicus. First, we have none other than Cleopatra. So, Cleopatra was born in 70 or 69 BCE in Alexandria. It's unclear when she was born. Her ruling period was during the Ptolemaic dynasty. She ruled with her brothers, Ptolemy the 13th, and Ptolemy the 12th. She ruled with Ptolemy the 13th from 51 BCE to 47 BCE. She ruled with Ptolemy from 47 to 44 BC, and she also ruled with her son for a short period until from 44 BCE to 30 BCE, and her son was Ptolemy the 15th Caesar. She ruled from 51 BCE to 30 BCE. Her death, which is, her religion is a syncretic religion blending Egyptian and Greek gods, meaning she may have worshipped Ra for the sun, but she also might have worshipped Zeus for the sky, or Poseidon for the night, or some form of Greek god or variation, mixing Egyptian gods with Greek gods, where she could have had a variation of the two, or just worshipped the two different religions at the same time. There we go. She died in August in 30 BCE in Alexandria. The rumors of her death, first of all, with religion, she identified herself with the goddess Isis to reinforce her political and spiritual authority. And according to what we understand, she died by suicide alongside her husband, Mark Antony, after the takeover of Egypt by Roman Emperor Octavian, later known as Augustus. Antony was fed false information that Cleopatra was dead and fell upon his sword. When Cleopatra had seen him, he begged her as he was dying that she make peace with Octavian. Cleopatra buried him and then died alongside two of her servants. It is unclear how she died. Some say by poison, some say by a snake, some say she was poisoned. It is unclear. She was buried alongside him, and yes, she was buried alongside him. And to go with the colors that are chosen, black, blue, red, and green, in Egypt, black represented death in the underworld, but also fertility and regeneration. Blue represented the Nile, fertility and rebirth. Red, chaos, power, and life. Green, regeneration, nature, fertility, and the afterlife. So, for her contributions, she spoke many languages, including but not limited to Koine Greek, her native language, Egyptian, Hebrew, Latin, Arabic, Parthian, um, Median, Sprian, Ethiopian, and more. This allowed her to communicate better when she was working with politics and meeting with people from foreign nations. She used her wits, charm, and beauty to form alliances with Roman generals, which allowed her to cause Egypt to flourish and be under well protection. She is known as the last active pharaoh of Egypt because after her death, Egypt was taken over by Rome and ruled under Augustus and his heirs. She studied many subjects, including, but not limited to, math, philosophy, literature, logic, and many more. Most of what she had discovered was burned in the Library of Alexandria, but what we do have has made revolutionary breakthroughs in science today. Without it, we might not be where we are with, say, cosmetics, because that was one of the things she had discovered through her study of medicine, which is not on here. But she had bettered cosmetics in her time through her study of medicine. But what we do know of it is very limited. But through that limited, we have the cosmetics we have today. She used her ability to hold conversation to charm listeners and influence them to follow her. With her influence, Egypt flourished under her rule. She proved that women can be strong, smart, and beautiful. She showed that not just men have the power to make kingdoms prosper. Next, we have Queen Boudica. First, let's explain the colors that you see here. Red, green, and blue. So, this goes along with her religion, which we will get to shortly. But, as a Celtic, red means passion, courage, and vitality. Green represents rebirth, renewal, and growth, while blue represents mystery, wisdom, and the vastness of the sky and sea. She was born in 26 AD in the British Isles. She ruled from 48 AD to 60 or 61 AD. It fluctuates how long she lived. She ruled through her marriage to Prasutagus and led a revolt near the end of reign. Her religion was Celtic, one of the only religions ever persecuted by the Romans. And that explains these colors here that you see, because what they mean. Because in Celtic religion, in Celtic religion, these colors have different meaning than what we saw in Egypt, where you still had red in there, for example. Her death date is 60 or 61 CE or AD, depending on what you use. Her contributions is she fought Rome to restore honor and free her people. Her influence is that she proved that women can lead armies, lead men into battle in a time when women had no power, and showed that women can defy the odds no matter what they are, no matter what the odds are. Next we have Nefertiti. She too was an Egyptian pharaoh. And as they did for Cleopatra, the black still stands for death in the underworld, along with fertility and regeneration. The blue still stands for the Nile River, fertility and rebirth. The red still symbolizes chaos, power, and life, and the green still represents regeneration, nature, fertility, and the afterlife. Born in 1370 BCE, she ruled from 1350 to 1341 BCE. She ruled through marriage, married to her husband from 1353 to 1336. She disappeared around 12 years of his reign. Hence why the dates do not match up here. Her religion was Aten, which was established by her husband and seen as a form of cult. Okay. So she was seen as the living fertility goddess, seen as the female element and the divine triad formed by the god Aten. And using this, she was able to make certain decisions alongside her husband. It is unclear whether or not she died. Well, we know she died, but it's unclear whether or not she died here in 1341 BCE or at a later date. What we do know is that she disappeared, and she's believed to be dead, but she is believed to have died at this time, but it is unknown. For her contribution, she was a major part of the Aten religion, seen as a human form of the fertility goddesses because she bore 6 daughters. Those 6 daughters who were always standing beside her is what is reinforced that. Now, what is not known, well, what is known but not really talked about is 3 of her daughters disappeared and 1 died. Only 2 of her daughters went on to become queens of Egypt. Shortly after the death of 1 of her daughters, the other 3 disappeared, believed to have died as well, and then she disappeared. It is unknown still today, but researchers are still trying to learn. My theory is she might have been kidnapped and thrown into the Nile. And given that the Nile flows upward, she may have flown into the Mediterranean and out into the Atlantic Ocean. And that would explain why anthropologists and archaeologists have not found her to this day. Her influence was, she was loved by her husband, I don't know how to say that name, Akhenaten, to where she appears on the 4 corners of his sarcophagus. She was forgotten after death of husband, but rediscovered in 1912 by a German archaeologist named Ludwig Borchardt. Laconicus. He was a Spartan king. Now, his rule was very short. But first, let's discuss the Spartan colors. We have crimson red. It represents the warrior spirit and courage. Gold, representing victory, power, and pride. And white, representing purity, moral integrity, and justice. He was born in 212 BCE in Sparta. Ruled in 192 BCE, following the death of King Nabis. His religion was Hellenistic, meaning he worshipped the Greek gods. His death date is unknown, but he is believed to have died during the takeover of Sparta. He ruled Sparta after the death of King Nabis and lost Sparta to the Achaeans. The Achaeans attacked Sparta in a time when balance was shifting, when they were vulnerable. This vulnerability allowed the Achaeans to come in and take over Sparta. He grew up as a royal Spartan under Nabis. He was not raised under Nabis, but he grew up during his reign. He was named after the region Laconia. Laconia is believed to be a region of the Spartan kingdom, and Sparta was the capital of said region. He was also named after their form of speech, called Laconism or Laconistic, which is where you speak very little. When you spoke, it was short and to the point. You did not speak unless there was need. And the Spartans firmly believed that. For the story I'm going to be telling you, and it is a long one, I'm going to be telling you about Boudica's revenge. So, as you know, she led a revolt near the end of her reign. But here is why. So, she was an Iceni queen alongside her husband, Prasudicus, in the British Isles. The Iceni tribe was under the rule of Rome. Excuse me, it is pronounced Iceni. After the death of Prasudicus, which he had asked that Rome share rule with his 2 daughters and his wife, Rome violated this treaty and took over the kingdom, the tribe. With this takeover, they violated his daughters and flogged Boudica, his wife. The Romans had saw the Celtic British people as savages and dangerous. Let's pause for that. So, in a previous slide, I mentioned that Boudica was of Celtic religion, right? Celtic faith. And that was one of the few religions that the Romans actually ever persecuted. Well, now we know why they persecuted that religion, because they viewed them as savages and dangerous. Well, Queen Boudica did not like this course of action that was taken by Rome. And she arises and gathers a group of people as Rome continues to take Britain, also known as Britannia at the time. She allies herself with the Trinovantes, who were also harmed by Rome, and leads a revolt. Now, this revolt is not said to be a revolt of revenge. But when you hear the reasons, this revolt is not said to be started by the one for revenge. It's said to be caused because of the financial strains, and the people wanted their money to be treated right. History does not want you to believe that this revolt was because Rome committed heinous acts, not just upon Boudica's daughters, but upon other daughters that are not mentioned, upon other mothers that do not get talked about. Now, not much is known about the cause of the revolt, because not much is known about the revolt itself. Not much is considered to be true about the revolt because of who it was written by and when. The revolt was written by 2 eccentric historians known as Tacitus, who wrote about it in around 100 AD or CE, and Cassius Dio, who wrote about it in around 200 AD or 200 CE. This revolt took place in about 60 or 61 AD or CE, however you say it. So that means that Tacitus wrote approximately 40 to 39 years after the revolt took place. And Cassius Dio wrote about 140 to 139 years after it took place. Now, Tacitus most likely had written or spoken proof. For his father was serving during this time when the revolt was happening. So while he might have been too young to really hear the revolt, he was able to learn about it from people who had survived it, who had lived in it. Cassius Dio, on the other hand, is believed to have had knowledge that we no longer possess of this revolt. Records that have long since been burned. Well, so most of what we know has been taken with grains of salt until we have found more proof. And that proof is still being discovered today about this revolt against the Romans. Her first attack was on the city of Camolodunum and brought them their first victory. The Roman governor of the British Isles ran to this town of Londinium to recuperate and plan a counterattack. But he was not going to counterattack there. When Boudica arrived at the town, she had her rebels burn it down. But the only people who were killed in that burning were the elderly, and the stubborn. The rest had ran. They had ran to the forests. Now, through many, many battles, 80,000 Romans perished as Boudica took back the British Isles. Now, Boudica caused Rome great shame, but not because of their losses. Not because she was winning. Not because there was revolt. It was because the Romans, a group of men who believed that they were stronger and more powerful than any woman on the earth, was losing to none other than a woman. Now imagine your whole world is formed around the fact that you are better than them. And all of a sudden, you lose to them. That would shake your beliefs. Yet the Romans kept on fighting. Would you? Boudica led tens of thousands of tribesmen to the forest where they launched their final attack. At this battle, there were women, the wives of the tribesmen, sitting in wagons, wanting to watch as they finally defeat the Romans, for they believed that they had victory. But the Roman governor that was placed there had given a very powerful speech. A speech so powerful that the Romans got their nerve up and prepared their formation. This battle caused a massacre of the revolt, of the rebellion, of the rebels, including the woman that watched this fight. The surviving rebels, including Boudica, escaped and regrouped. But Boudica, and they planned on continuing this revolt, but it was hard. Their numbers were thinning. They could not gain any more ground. Boudica sadly died from her injuries, and the revolt came to an end. The people gave her a costly funeral, but they suffered very greatly. The governor gave harsh punishments to any remaining rebels and those who gave them housing and protection. Out of fear of another revolt, Emperor Nero replaces the current governor with a more peaceful one. For centuries, Boudica was forgotten, but now seen by Britain as either a barbaric butcher, an ancestral shame, a patriot, an exemplar of female fortitude, a figure of anti-patriotism, or as the godmother of the British Empire. Let's think about this. A woman. In a time when women had little power, brought Rome to such fear that not only did they show mercy on the rebels, not only did she strike fear into the emperor of Rome, she led an army and nearly freed not just her home, but the entire British Isle. If I know anything, if I have learned anything from ancient world history, is that they were a people who defied the odds. They took the hand they were dealt, and they won. Boudica may have lost this battle, but in the long run, she proved that no matter what, a woman with nothing can defy the odds of those who have everything. But I think this can be a lesson to everyone. That if you have nothing, you can still reach the heights or higher than those who have everything. Boudica is a lesson to us all. These are my sources. I used Cleopatra. I used Britannica for Cleopatra. I used Cleopatra, Queen Cleopatra the 7th. I used Notable Accomplishments of Cleopatra from World History Edu. 10 Brilliant Boudica Facts, National Geographic Kids. Nefertiti, Biography, Reign, Death, Tomb, Meaning, and Facts on Britannica. Nefertiti, World History Encyclopedia. Laconicus Explained, Laconia, Map, Ancient Greece, History, Archaeology, and Population, Britannica. Queen Boudica's Revenge, the British Revolt against Rome. In this site, there is a YouTube video that gives what we know today. Thank you. This has been a learning experience. Thank you.